I'm just going to call to order this meeting. This meeting is being recorded by the Economic Development Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Got one.
You're gonna do a roll call or after?
We'll do it after you open up.
Okay, very good. We're gonna call to order likewise for the planning board. And already heard this recording. Thank you very much.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is roll call of members. I am present. Councilor Mastroterro. Here. Councilor Gordon.
Here.
Councilor Bullock. Here. Councilor Minhas.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
All set. Okay, and introduce the members of the planning board. I'm George Tolumsis. I'm the chair.
Sarah Brown Anson, member.
Peter McIver, member.
Tom Bledsoe, alternate.
Erica Reeves, alternate.
Jeff Sauer, vice chair.
Big Michelle Clark.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is approving the meeting minutes from March 6th and March 11th. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll start.
Thank you.
We don't need a roll call.
We don't need a roll call vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Taking notes here, sorry. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comment. So if you want to pass those sheets down, great. Thank you. And anybody online that wants to talk in public comment, if you could please put your comments in, just sign up in the comment board. First person from the crowd is Robert Catlin. Catlin, thank you.
Yeah,
Come up to the table, please.
okay. Well, I just want to acknowledge that probably the reason we're all here is because there's a housing crisis in this country and in this state. And I'm feeling resentful that the governor is imposing rules on Western Mass, as often happens from Boston, that could potentially really change the character of our town. We have a great historic nature here, and I do not want to see more than one ADU per lot allowed. I think one ADU per lot is a good compromise. I have a house, and I have people calling me and messaging me all the time. You want to sell, you want to sell. You know it's not local people. You know they don't have our interests at heart. They're going to squeeze as many dollars as they can out of our community. And if it takes throwing up a bunch of ADUs behind a building that's already a duplex or just a single family on a small lot, they're going to do everything they can. And it's going to affect people. Like if somebody put an ADU next to my house or in the lot next door, believe me, I would notice it. I hear their car coming up and down the driveway all the time, as is. If there's going to be more people living there up till 9, I read somewhere. This is going to, it's really going to drive down our housing values and quality of life. Let's see. I also, it's speaking in terms of the housing crisis, I think rental vouchers should be available for low-income people to rent small dwellings, but not to have absentee investors just coming in and converting homes into, a single family into 3 or 4 unaffordable units. Let's see. Well, I think that covers the gist of what I wanted to say.
Thank you. And just for the record, can you state your name and address?
Yeah, Robert Catlin, 31 West Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Jessa McCormack. name and address, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jessa McCormick, 20 Frederick Road. So I'm here tonight representing Housing Greenfield. We're a group of folks who recognize that our community is experiencing a housing crisis and are supporting solutions that help all of our neighbors thrive. So the proposed amendments, they create just unnecessary restrictions. This isn't a piece of legislation or regulations that work in isolation, right? There's lots of other things that are making sure the characters of our community will stay in place. So, for example, the proposed language that would allow only one ADU on a permitted lot, it just seems a little bit like a hammer that sees everything as a nail, right? There are many different potential configurations for multiple units of housing to coexist, and it depends on the existing structure and lot size. There are other existing regulations, codes, and reviews, a potential project we need to go through that can specifically problem solve for each unique lot. Other amendments seem like they would just create confusion and chill development. So there's an amendment that would redefine an ADU as a unit within a principal dwelling unit. It's just confusing, like I can't even really say it properly. So I think it might really stop people from wanting to explore this further. And I think there's just other ways to go about this. There's already a really clear distinction between ADUs and duplexes, triplexes, and apartments. We should just kind of go with what everyone understands. Lastly, we all need to remember that in reality, there are only 10 to 18 potential ADUs that could be developed in Greenfield over the next 10 years. So we're not talking about a drastic change in community character. Instead, we're providing places for our neighbors to live. We're somewhat lucky that an increase of 18 units would actually make a significant improvement in housing accessibility. Overall, we need about 400 units to increase housing accessibility per the town's housing needs assessment. So this is very achievable, and it's a situation where every unit really does count. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm just gonna interject here. If you signed up for public comment and it's in regards to the public hearing, which is about these amendments, we'll do that in the next section. So did everybody that signed up on this sheet, is that part of the public comment for the amendments, or did you have something else you want to talk about? Okay, so we're just gonna handle that in the next section when we get that public meeting open, please. Right. Anybody online have anything that's
So
not
there's gonna be like a public comment section in the public hearing.
correct? Correct.
Which is gonna be fairly soon, so.
Just following protocol.
We have a second chance to talk.
You signed up for it. You could talk again if you want, but you said it on the record. I'm just trying to keep things clean for future procedure, right? So I should have said that from the beginning. That's my fault, but we'll get back to it in the next part of the meeting. Got their hand raised. Stephanie, is this about the amendments or is this about a different public comment?
No, I had a different public comment.
Okay, go ahead then.
Hi, Stephanie
Name and
Duclos,
address. Yeah.
166 Chapman Street. So I just, are we talking to both committees right now? I just don't, because it's a joint meeting, it was more directed towards the planning board and not being able to find certain documents.
You can say whatever you want in your 2 minutes of public comment.
Okay. So, the inaccessibility of documents for the planning board agendas is a real concern. I tried to look up some of the documents for some of the things that were on some of the prior agendas, and I could not find them. I'm going through multiple departments and links on the city website to try and locate where plan documents would be other than in person. And I'm hoping that we can digitize all the documents that we discuss, and it's just a thought for the future to make it more accessible for people who might not be able to get to 20 Sanderson Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you see a TV remote?
It's right behind your laptop.
That's Matt's. All right, so no more public comment, not relating to the public hearing. So we're gonna move on to the public hearing, which is on page 20, so give me a minute to get there. All right, so. In accordance with Home Rules Charter, the Economic Development Committee and Planning Board hold a joint public hearing on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at City Hall Meeting Room, second floor, 14 Port Square, or via the Zoom link below, to consider the following proposed amendments to the Greenfield zoning ordinance. 4, zoning amendments to section 200-56 accessory dwelling units. 2 amendments in subsection D, accessory dwelling units, paragraph 2. 1 amendment in subsection D, accessory dwelling units standards, to add new paragraph 11. 1 amendment in section C, applicability, paragraph 2. So we're gonna open this public meeting at 6:42.
And opening for the planning board as well. Thanks.
All right, so at this time, I'd like to continue down the list of the public. The next person on the list is David Lewis, 54 High Street. If you could come up to the table. Just state your name and address, please.
Yeah, I'm David Lewis. I live at 54 High Street. I think that there should only be one ADU per lot. What concerns me is that why is there a housing shortage or problem in Greenfield? I'm seeing a lot of vacant houses. The last graduation class from Greenfield High School had under 75 kids. So obviously, the kids that are graduating after they go out of college, if they go to college, they're moving out of Greenfield. The population is dropping. By the next turn of the next century, Greenfield has been programmed by someone in the state of having 48% of the number of residents that we now have. So that's why I'm concerned that we're getting this thing shoved down our throats. Boston wants to move out here. Fine, but let's not stop building, let's fill up the ones we have. Let's bring them up to code or whatever we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person on the list is Donna Fessinger. Did I say that right? Just name and address, please.
Fessinger, precinct 6.
What?
Sorry,
Yeah, I'll give you a second before I start the clock.
Speaking out on my objections to these confusing changes in our town's ADU regulations. These by right changes mandated by the state reduce our residents' voices in our neighborhood developments. Our population growth has been relatively stagnant for 75 years. And without new job opportunities, people who move to Greenfield will be reliant on our social services, and that will increase the workload of our fire, police, and health services, thus increasing the costs and our taxes. Most Greenfielders do not have the funds to build ADUs. It's expensive to build another building or even to rehab an upstairs. It's quite expensive. The corporate developers are the ones who stand to benefit, as they have the money to buy up properties and build multiple ADUs. I would much prefer to see our town's efforts being made to help the property owners maintain their houses and to rehab the increasing number of vacant and derelict houses across our neighborhoods in Greenfield. We have many vacant properties, which could be available housing units. They need to be fixed up. They could be rented or sold to new owners. These ADU regulations have been redrafted 4 or 5 times since last October. If some LLC wants to buy up single-family homes and add a new dwelling unit, that's an ADU, not a duplex. And we should leave it open-ended for investors to add multiple, we should not leave it open-ended for investors to add multiple rental units to their properties. I support the idea of one ADU on one lot, if that. I'm not even that in favor of ADUs to begin with. I have one that I stare at right outside my back window. It's one of the first ones built for a young couple, which now
15
has,
more seconds, just
how many?
15.
Now has 9 people living there with their toys and things scattered all over. So it's not all that pleasant. Zoning is supposed to protect us all, not just those who are wealthy enough to build a second or third home on their property. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person on the list is Lexi Turner.
Evening. My name's Lexi Turner. I live on 17 Chestnut Hill. Thanks for the opportunity to provide input on the petition before the Planning Board and Economic Development Committee this evening. And thanks for your time and commitment on this issue. I would like to reiterate my support for the changes in zoning regarding ADUs that the Planning Board and Economic Development Committee have already recommended to the City Council. I do not agree with the changes proposed in the citizens petition before the board and committee this evening. The intent of the Affordable Homes Act is to make it easier to build additional units across the state. The citizens petition would make it more difficult for an owner of a 2-family property to build a detached ADU than what the Planning Board and Economic Development Committee are recommending. This would move us backwards, not forwards. It is even more important today for alternative types of housing amidst our acute housing shortage of all tenure types. Please allow for 2-family homes to build an additional ADU on the property by right, as long as it meets all relevant building code and zoning requirements. I also believe that the citizens petition to develop a city fund for rental assistance for ADUs is unnecessary. This is what federal Section 8 and Massachusetts rental assistance program vouchers are designed to do for anyone eligible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Joan Marie Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. Emily Jackson, 2 Chestnut Hill, Greenfield. I'm here to support the citizen amendments regulating ADUs. We asked the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities recently, are towns required to allow multiple ADUs on a single lot? The answer was, it is a local option whether to allow more than 1 ADU per lot. Towns like Conway and Shutesbury are allowing 1 ADU per lot. A member of the Conway Planning Board told us, Conway's principal dwellings may yield no more than 1 protected unit ADU. It doesn't provide any mechanism for additional ADUs of any type. The Economic Development Committee minutes of its March meeting states, quote, concern was raised that developers view ADUs as a lucrative incentive to make large quantities of money in the smallest amount of space, and there should be a limit on the number of ADUs that could be built on a lot, end quote. The EDC minutes added, quote, a significant amount of ADUs has been constructed in Massachusetts, and even if zoning allows for ADUs, it doesn't mean everyone will have the means to build one. One developer in Greenfield wants to build 24 small condos up to 700 square feet and sell them for $250,000 each. This is not for low-income people. We have 5,525 residential lots in Greenfield that would be allowed to build 1 ADU with no special permit required. If we allow every property owner to build one ADU on their lot with no special permit, that's legal, and that's very generous. If over the next 5 years, only 2% of these homeowners build an ADU, we would have 110 new ADUs. Councilor Bullock wrote her constituents that the state estimates for Greenfield's portion of ADUs built over a 5-year period would be 19 ADUs. So if only 2% of the residential lots built one ADU, that would be nearly 6 times higher than the state's projections. And if 98% of our property owners do not want to build an ADU over the next 5 years, why then are we even talking about ADUs as a way to address our housing shortage? I want to close by supporting the citizens' proposal for giving low-income renters who want to live in an ADU access to rental subsidy vouchers. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good timing. Next on the list is Mitchell Spate.
Good evening, councilors and EDC and planning board members. Mitch Spate, 2 Chestnut Hill, Greenfield. I sort of echo the sentiments which you heard from David Lewis, Joan Marie Jackson, and I'm going to put it to you a different way tonight. I had something else to say, but I think this bill that's being presented to the constituents of Massachusetts is one of the biggest poverty pimping programs I've seen since urban renewal. And I've got facts to back it up. I think through this whole process, we have never discussed about pathway to home ownership. This is all strictly focused on the tenant-landlord relationship. And I think we need to move past that. We've spent several months trying to educate and prevent damage control. We know this is playing out what I experienced in 2015 when ADU first came. The same players, just different faces. Okay, the same thing is playing out, and the takeaway is going to be the same. I would seriously ask you to consider what's being proposed by the citizens on the petition tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Al Norman.
Don't start me yet. I have copies for people. These are for board members. For the record, my name is Al Norman, Grinnell Street. I want to make 3 simple points tonight about the citizens' amendments for ADUs. Number 1, we have a legal local option to require 1 ADU on 1 lot. Look at section 7103(5) of the final ADU regulations. It begins, if a municipality chooses to allow additional uses on the same lot, if it chooses. EOHLC indicated to me that we have the local option to limit 1 ADU on 1 lot. Point 2, a separate dwelling unit inside a principal dwelling unit is an ADU and must be counted as an ADU. What is the difference between a 2-family dwelling and our current zoning, which is a detached building containing 2 dwelling units, versus a principal dwelling unit with an ADU that has a separate entrance from the outside through an entry hall or a corridor shared with the principal dwelling? If I apply under the proposed local ADU regs to convert the 2nd floor inside of my home into a separate dwelling unit that maintains a separate outside entrance or through a hallway or corridor shared with a principal dwelling, that's an ADU. According to ADU law, 760 CMR 7102. If I want to be classified as two-family, I can build a duplex, which is a detached building containing 2 dwelling units. What I built inside my home is not detached, it's an ADU. Citizen amendment for 1 ADU on 1 lot represents a reasonable compromise between people who fear that there will be too many ADUs and those who fear there will not be enough. When you have one, whether you have 1, 2, or 3 family house, you should not be able to add more than 1 ADU per lot. We can strike the definition of unprotected unit, which allows any number of additional ADUs on a lot, and remove it as a use in our table of uses. If we allow 1 ADU per lot, the city will not have to hold any special permit or site plan reviews because there will be no unprotected ADUs. Point 3, I support making rental vouchers available for low-income people to rent these small dwellings. I do not support making absentee investors wealthy by converting a single-family home like mine into 3 or 4 unaffordable market rate rentals. The city should commit to negotiating an agreement with the Greenfield Housing Authority to make rental subsidy vouchers available for people who want to live in ADUs. We should be advocating for poor people to get these units, not saying it's not necessary. Go and work something out with Section 8. Let's be proactive, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next on the list is Denham Lunt. Did I say that right? Joe?
Hello, everybody. Denham Lunt, Sunrise Ave in Greenfield, Mass. I have a sort of a broad brush comment or two, and then something a little more specific, ties into a lot of the things that were said earlier. I certainly appreciate all the discussion of the complicated issues related to ADUs this evening. It ain't simple, that's all there is to that, but there are solutions. And I agree that situations regarding ADUs certainly could have different effects on different environments. Too many is a problem. I'm more or less a 1 ADU guy. It can certainly be argued, though, that mixed bags of homeowners in our town could be adversely affected if some ADU solution isn't arrived at. The job is to make winners out of everybody. Too many is too much, but the right amount could serve everyone in a positive way. What I've been hearing is that this issue is not settling well in our city as well as statewide. It all needs clarity and smart, organized, well-meant management. I sit here in particular as one of about 40 homeowners in the Stone Farm Lane and Sunrise neighborhoods in Greenfield, and they are facing a looming yet unpermitted large development of condos that Joan mentioned just a few minutes ago. It's about 50 yards from the back of my home, so I have a vested interest in how things fly in that regard. The proposed number of new buildings has varied some, but as I also believe Joan mentioned, most estimates suggest 22 connected condos, most size from only 5 to 700 square feet each. Several other separated buildings are also on that agenda, and multiple cars and lighting will certainly blight the area if built. That's more of an aside, but the whole point is that there's 22 condos being built that are connected with each other. So this is a kind of a slightly unique situation where you've got different bunches of units, but how do you throw the number of ADUs into that stew? If that build out came to pass, that scenario alone would have deep and unpopular effects on the existing adjacent homeowners. And adding to tonight's discussion, expanding from there by adding multiple ADUs will be a fiasco. The question is, how are the council and governing boards of Greenfield going to manage any notion of expanding ADUs throughout our communities without damaging those communities? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. The last person on the list is Chrissy here.
Good evening, Chris here, 26 Sunrise Ave. I'm going to be talking on the zoning issues a little bit more. The ADUs housing lots, I think one house or a housing lot and one ADU is pretty reasonable. I don't see it as being anything but that. It needs to be written that way if we're going to have it that way. I really believe that it's somewhat of a solution for some of them. Certainly not the end all, but we do need housing. One of the deals with ADUs and to spell out what they are seems to be an issue. The petitions is saying, you know, they're going to have an egress, they're going to have an entry, they're going to be able to get out, they're going to have cooking space, they're going to have sleeping space, sanitary facilities. This is basically an apartment and you've got to have it all in order to be an ADU. I think that should be in the law. Spell it out. I like what the citizen position in 4 does, which is if you don't go with 1 or 2, and you go, basically what it does is if somebody does want to put a second one on, you do keep the ability to go and have a special permit and to be having some other control by the planning board and the zoning board to have some control over what's getting built in the town. I mean, that's what the boards are for. That's what you're here for. It's for not just us, but for the people coming in so they know what they're doing and not doing. Save number 3 for last. I'm absolutely in favor of rental subsidies. Why are you building them if you're not going to let the people get in there who need them? I mean, it's somebody's going to occupy them. It's nice if the people locally get to do it. And yeah, I'm just all over that one. I don't even know why I talk about it. All that said, lifelong resident homeowner, I have an issue that has not been addressed, and I'm not sure it actually is an issue, but if a condo unit is able to have ADUs attached to it, I don't know, but inside, outside, attached, we've talked about it. We have a 24 unit piece coming up somewhere possibly behind us. It isn't actually permitted yet or anything. But if those 24 turn into 48, that's something you need to put regulations on and figure out what is good. And I am unsure if that goes, but it's something certainly I'm concerned with. Much of the new ADU regulations just need to be addressed in the issues around them. And that's what you're doing here. And I appreciate it. We need a more affordable housing. Both in Franklin County and especially in Greenfield, where the county seat. We've got a lot of the facilities that the people who don't have a lot of money need. And I won't get into them all.
Closing argument here.
Yeah. These are very confusing issues at best. Please consider the 4 amendments and the positive impact that they can bring to affordable housing. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I am going to go online and I see we have 2 hands up. So we will start with Stephanie Duclos.
Hi, Stephanie Duclos, 166 Chapman Street. I'm going to speak to order 25-081 regarding the subsidies. I agree with giving housing subsidies. I'm confused as to why we are making shall statements for the Greenfield Housing Authority specifically. When I accepted a housing voucher, mobile housing voucher, it did come from the Greenfield Housing Authority and it rented my full house. So I'm not sure where the restriction is on their end. If they eliminated that category, that a dwelling unit would be eligible for a rental voucher. It already exists. And I know that we also have them over at the Franklin County Housing Authority as well. So I'm a little confused as to why this is being brought forward with a specific entity. I think that restricts us. Although I do support the notion of it, I'm just a little cautious as to a shall statement for the Greenfield Housing Authority if we can't even bring it to fruition, if the vouchers are no longer available, or for whatever reason, funding gets cut for that program. I'm confused as to why this amendment is being added into our code. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have one more person online, Peg Hall.
Thank you. Peg Hall, 34 Pierce Street, precinct 6. So I'm a little concerned with all of the citizens petitions. Right now, if you have a single family home, you can convert it to a 2-family. You don't need a public hearing. You need to meet the existing regs. Same thing with a 2 to 3. I don't see that that's a problem. We haven't been overwhelmed by that happening, even though that's currently on the books. So I don't see any point in stepping backwards when our goal should be to try to create more housing. As far as the ADUs, I'm in favor of what the state is making us do, but whether we're in favor or not, the state is making us do those basic things. And I hear a lot of fear mongering, a lot of inflated numbers. I don't think this is going to make a huge difference in town. I hope that the small differences that it does make allows us to have a little bit more housing. And I think if the citizen petitions were to pass, that I think you should do that if what you're looking for is sprawl. I'd rather keep our farmland. I would rather get the center of town to have higher density. I think we should be doing that by increasing the height limits a little bit and looking at some of the other things that we've been looking at. But I think these citizens' positions are a giant step backwards. And frankly, I think most of it amounts to NIMBY. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else online that would like to speak? Anybody else in the room? Yeah, come on. State your name and address. Yeah, that's fine.
Constance DiMarino, 82 Highland Avenue,
You just spell that real quick.
CONSTANCE, last name DIMARINL. 82 Highland.
82 high, you said?
Highland.
Highlands, thank you. I'm hard at hearing, years in construction. All right, you can go now. Thank you.
I would just kind of like to express my thoughts on this. I am not a professional town hall person, so the routine, I don't know. So I will do my best here, but I have been in the paper and stuff following ADU dwelling sort of some of the changes and proposed things. I am very much in favor of 1 unit to 1 lot. It seems to me just a practical way to have something that meets homeowners' needs without having to take a lot of measures, but also mitigates developers from coming in and sort of taking advantage. That's sort of it seems to me like a good compromise. From a more personal point of view that really just actually very recently came up, I started realizing sort of a more, we have a lot in the back of our house, which we purchased when we bought our house. And that lot is a woodland that abuts James Street. So it's essentially a buffer between the back of our property and the next street in the back. Our neighbors also own a lot that is adjacent to ours. So basically there was this woodland that was purchased by some of the houses to create a buffer at some point. And very recently, it was brought to my attention that one of my neighbors transferred some of that property on his lot. I'm not even sure exactly how much or exactly where, but I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know anything about this. They didn't have to come to me about anything. And we have a very good relationship. Like, this isn't about that, but it really brought to mind how this can really be something that affects neighbors and neighbors. Like, people, I realized, wow, both sides, both of those lots, people could just fill them up with ADUs if there's no control. And that was not what we purchased that lot for. I realized we only own our lot, but that is the reality. Like, you buy property, you have ideas, you invest in a neighborhood for a particular thing. And then if all of a sudden the rules are changed and that neighborhood could change into something else, I think that is a really big deal, and that people should have a sense of there's some structure and infrastructure around this. It's not just sort of like, well, whatever anybody wants, they can just pop up you know, a bunch of little units back there and a woodland isn't a woodland anymore. So that's pretty much all I would like to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last chance. Anybody online that hasn't spoke or anybody in the room that hasn't spoke? All right. I'm gonna close the public hearing at 7:11.
Likewise.
Are you guys gonna hang around or?
We are going to be, we're not going to be deliberating on this evening. We are going to be closing the planning board meeting, and we will be deliberating on this at our next regular meeting on May 1st. I'll accept from one of the planning board members, a motion to adjourn the planning board.
Second.
So we'll do, because Victor's remote, we'll do a roll call. Just wanted in favor?
Aye.
Not a vote.
Oh, thank you.
Aye.
Aye. And Victor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, planning board meeting is closed. Back to you.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is, I get the right page. Motions.
Page 21.
21, yeah. So this is order number FY 25-051. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200 zoning, section 56, accessory dwelling units to add language in bold and remove language in strike through as required revisions under the Affordable Homes Act signed by the governor, Maura Healy, relative to accessory dwelling unit 760 CMR 71 to read as follows in attached exhibit A and amends and further amends at the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in the order that be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. So this basically is just voting how we feel about the planning board's changes to make us apply to the state standards.
Didn't you vote on this last month?
I thought we did, and I was looking through the minutes, and for some
I'm
reason.
so confused that it came back because
I
I
think-
really thought we already.
I think we might have tabled it until we discussed the citizens petitions, just to kind of do it all at once, was what I recall, but I'd have to dig through the meeting minutes. To me, I think, we should just vote on this now, and any of the citizens petitions, just for the audience to understand, amend what we vote on now if they do go through the council. So it's not going to prevent your petitions from taking action. It's just, we're going to change it now to what it needs to be to meet state regulations. And then if we want to amend it based on the citizens petitions in the sections that you said, we can do so at a further date, which would probably be the next city council meeting.
May, probably. I think we're saving all this till May, is that
May.
correct?
Special meeting.
Yep. Yeah, for a special meeting in May, we're holding a special meeting for this, so we meet your timeline, so it doesn't get kicked out. Any counselors have any comments before we take a vote on this? No? Let's take a vote. 25-051. I'm a yes. Counselor Mastro-Totaro.
Yes.
Counselor Gordon.
Yes.
Counselor Bullock is absent. Counselor Minhas.
I'll abstain.
Okay. The next item on the agenda page. Twenty-nine. Order number FY 25-079, the city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, section 200-56. Accessory dwelling unit, subsection D, accessory dwelling unit standards, paragraph 2, by adding the following language. Section 200-56, accessory dwelling units is hereby further amended in subsection D. Accessory dwelling unit standards, subpart 2, by adding the words, only one accessory dwelling unit may be created within a single family house or lot. The following new language, once a single protected use ADU has been permitted on a lot pursuant to 760 CMR 71.02, definition of protected use ADU, no additional ADU should be permitted on lot. So, let's bring this up to discussion. And if anybody has any comments, so now would be the time.
Can I ask a process question.
Sure.
So my understanding is that the planning board is going to deliberate on these questions at your next meeting. So how is it that we are able to move forward on them?
You can vote on the same thing as long as you hold the public meeting that meeting. So we do it in city council all the time where we have,
But do we do things before the planning board gives us their report?
so we could do this a couple ways. We could just go to the May 8th meeting
Mhm.
and not take a vote on this at all.
Right.
And then deliberate it at the May 8th meeting, the public meeting.
Right.
Or we could talk about it briefly here, make sure everybody understands it, and then not have a recommendation on this. So we could basically not vote on this at all right now if we want to.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I thought you were gonna do these in May. You're taking votes on the citizens amendments now, right? And I thought you were gonna do that in May.
We can do it now, or we could do it as full council in May, but I can't really talk about it, so I'm gonna stop. We could table all these right now for the May meeting, if everybody's okay with that,
And the next planning board meeting is when?
May 1st.
May 1st.
And I would feel more comfortable hearing the planning board deliberations and then talking about this in our special meeting than voting on this tonight, to be honest with you.
But we can, if we chose, we can talk about it without voting on it.
We can talk about it, correct? So
Thank you. That's helpful.
any counselor here can make a motion to table, and I'm okay with that, or we could talk about it.
I would like to talk about this one,
Okay,
just as a prelude to May 8th. I'm all for limiting ADUs to one per lot and not not allowing any more than one. That's just my opinion.
I can second that sentiment. I think, just from hearing from the public and different people that development is important, but doing it in a practical, reasonable way is also important. And I think we need to look at this carefully and say, this does make sense. The state gives us the ability to allow one ADU on a lot. It's more than enough for that one lot. So I know housing's a crisis for a lot of people, but I also believe in responsible development. And so, yeah, I second that feeling. Personal feeling.
Sure. I am not in favor of this. I completely agree that we need to do things that make sense and don't change the character of the city and, give people control over their property. And I just don't see a need to limit ADU construction this way. I think it's extremely unlikely that there will be lots that people are trying to build more than one ADU on. So maybe it's just a non-issue anyway. But I think to me, this, as someone said in public comment, this is a pretty blunt instrument, like, limiting to one per lot when we have 1,000 different kinds of lots in this town. And there may be a lot that it actually makes sense for. And as I always say with all of these, zoning proposals, I don't want us to back ourselves into a corner because, we're trying to prevent something that's not really going to happen anyway, but it also prevents, some small changes that might actually benefit us and allow us to build a little bit more housing. I will also say that I've been looking for evidence. I've been looking to the research. I've been talking to people across Massachusetts and in other states actually for evidence that that some of the things that people are afraid of have actually come to pass anywhere, that, people are buying up lots to build lots of ADUs, that developers are coming in and purchasing lots to do this. And it's not there. Over 90% of ADUs are built by, the homeowner. It is, as several people have noted, very expensive to do. So very few people actually are able to do it, can afford to do it. The people who do it are usually building one for grandma to live in or for their, children, you know, when they get married, to be able to live close by when, you know, there isn't other housing available in town, which is, you know, certainly a problem we have here. And, you know, the postcards that we all get if we're homeowners about buying our property and all that, they are annoying. I get them too. Those are from people who want to flip, you know, put a new coat of paint on your house and flip it. Those are not coming from people who are looking to take over and build lots of new, you know, buildings on it to rent them out or sell them in some complicated way. So there's no evidence that these things are actually happening. If I'm missing something, which is certainly possible, I would love to be pointed toward the evidence that these things actually are happening. But I have not been able to find it. And I think that there is a fair, and I understand the fears, right? Like, I'm not dismissing that at all. There's no proof that those things are actually happening. And I think that there's a fair amount of fear mongering happening. You know, so I'm all in favor of finding compromises. I'm all in favor of, you know, understanding what really is happening across the state and nationwide when we're looking at these issues. But I would vote against this.
Okay, so I think for me, what a lot of this ADU stuff is about is quality of life for the person who would be living in such an ADU. How I see this, and I would disagree, Rachel, I feel like I've come across a bunch of stuff online, whether that's on YouTube, on Facebook, on a bunch of all of these like investor bros and people who flip properties and people who, you know, do the bare minimum in order to cram as many people as they can into one property so that they can capitalize on it. And not only from what I just hear from them, where they see like these ADU regulations kind of deregulating the housing market, making it more profitable. I also just think about a person who lives in an ADU, right? If there's multiple in one lot, what kind of a quality of life does that person have? Well, I think it's a genuine concern that I have, and that what other people are also talking about, that we don't want to be packing people in like sardines just so that we can say, hey, they have a roof over their head. I think we can do better. I think there's better ways we can use our zoning laws to increase our housing stock. I don't think allowing as many ADUs as possible is the way to go for it. So I would support this, but also I think it'd be okay if we maybe didn't take a vote on this tonight and we just talked about it.
I think that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah. I'd like to discuss them all now, and then we'll take a vote at the special meeting. Any other comments on this one? All right, we're gonna move on to order number FY 25080. The City Council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, section 200-56, accessory dwelling units, subsection D, accessory dwelling unit standards, paragraph 2, by adding the following language: section 200-56. Accessory dwelling units is hereby further amended in subsection D, accessory dwelling unit standards, subpart 2, by adding at the end thereof the following new language: an ADU created within a principal dwelling unit shall be considered one ADU on a lot for the purpose of this section. I'm gonna start with my comments on this. I don't agree with this one. I think if I want to convert a single family house into a duplex or a multifamily house, I should be able to by right, like the planning board has stood by for so long. So for me, if I have a multifamily house, and if I'm correcting the planning board, and I will ask them to make sure I'm saying this correctly. From what I understand, if you have a multifamily dwelling, then automatically the ADU is by special permit. You can't just get an ADU on a multifamily property. And that was because it's an unprotected ADU. It's not a single family home. So I don't really see the need for this personally. That's my opinion. Anybody else?
I feel the same. I think that, yeah, it would become a duplex, which is subjected to different rules and regulations and procedures that are in place for this exact reason, that, you know, we don't want people to be able to kind of skirt around the rules and build extra units, but yeah, I don't think that we need to restrict it in this way.
Any other counselors?
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I think I'd have to think about this a little bit more.
Sure.
Be able to have a better understanding of what the implications would be.
All right, I'm gonna move on to the next order number FY 25-081. City Council moved that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, section 200-56, accessory dwelling units, subsection D, accessory dwelling unit standards by adding the new paragraph 11 as follows, section 200-56. Accessory dwelling units is hereby further amended in subsection D, accessory dwelling unit standards by adding after subpart 10 the following new subpart 11. In order to enable the development of housing units for low-income individuals, the Greenfield Housing Authority shall provide deed restrictive rental housing vouchers to the extent that they are available to low-income households that limits their share to cost to not to exceed 30% of their income as determined by the Greenfield Housing Authority. I'm gonna be honest with you, this one just confused me. So, I'm not sure that it's necessary for us to tell people how they have to rent their property. I'm a small government kind of guy, so for me, this one just seems like overstepping our boundaries as a council. I would entertain this if there was some language that said if the primary dwelling is a rental property and not occupied by the owner, then the ADU should be subject to this. But if the owner occupies that building, you know, he should be able to rent it to whoever he wants. Any other councils? Yeah, $8, sure. Thank you.
So I think with this, what it's attempting to do is to specify who these ADUs would be for. And I think the intention is correct in that I would also like us to see ADUs be for people who need them. So we're not just cramming people in just to do it. And I think having the vouchers is something that would enable low-income people to be able to actually afford them. But I do understand your sentiments about if somebody's not actually living there, or if somebody's actually living there and us restricting what essentially their home is like. But I think the idea that, and this is kind of something that I wanted to do with another zoning thing, is if we can clarify and prioritize low-income housing, which is what I think the whole housing conversation is about, I'm going to support that.
All right, any other counselors?
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, I really appreciate this proposal in that, you know, I think that we are all on the same page that we want to encourage, you know, whatever ways we possibly can for particularly low income people to have more access to housing. I think that's great. I appreciate the intention behind it. My concern about this is that, you know, I think the Greenfield Housing Authority already is working hard and doing really good work with very limited means. And, you know, they already do offer a lot of these kind of rental housing vouchers. I think as was mentioned in public comment, you know, their funding streams are in question right now. And I would be pretty concerned about, first of all, I don't really think it's the business of this council to tell the GHA how to operate. So that's kind of the basic thing for me. But I also think that, you know, they're entering tricky times. A lot of their funding is federal, and I think that they need the flexibility to do, you know, what they need to do since they're the professionals administering these voucher programs. And I wouldn't want us to put restrictions on that because I don't think we know better than them.
Thank you. If nobody else, we'll move on to the last one. Order number FY 25-082. City council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, section 200-56, accessory dwelling unit, subsection C, applicability, paragraph 2, by adding new language as follows. Section 200-56 accessory dwelling units is further amended in subsection C, applicability, by adding the end of subpart 2 the following new language. Any ADU on a lot which is not protected use ADU as defined in section 200-56 of this ordinance shall be subject to special permit pursuant to 760 CMR 71035 for the use of land structures for the additional ADUs. Any ADU which requires special permit shall require a site plan review by the planning board prior to construction pursuant to section 200-8.4B1 of the ordinance and in confirmation with 760 CMR 71.03 3B5. Okay, so this one here, this is a tricky one because if we pass the first one, then this one's really, to me, not applicable, right? But if we don't pass the first one and we allow multiple ADUs on a property, I do believe that a site plan review should be required and a special permit, right? We already require the special permit, and maybe the planning board can answer this. If there's a special permit process, does it automatically require a site plan review? Is this redundant language?
Yes, as a special permit does require a site plan review.
So in terms, this is redundant language.
Well, this is saying shall be subject to a special permit. If that's already required, then the site plan review would not have to be specified.
So my belief on this one is if you're building more than one ADU, it should be by special permit and require site plan review. So if that does that for us, I fully support this one. Any other comments?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think sometimes the special permit is thrown around as like kind of this like scary thing. I feel like it's a way we have these regulations and processes in place so that there's due process and we're doing things the correct way, making sure that everything is safe and secure and to the wishes of a stable community. So I support.
Thank you. Any other counselors?
I'll say, I mean, I also don't think that this is particularly necessary, but I do hear everybody's concerns and I appreciate the effort to compromise and find something that everyone can live with. So I'd be willing to support it.
Okay. All right, that's gonna close our section on motions. We're gonna move on to the discussion phase where we have some guests here.
Do we need to vote to motion to table? Please,
I don't think we have to,
or is that just?
I don't even think we have to vote on it. I wrote a note in here saying we're not voting on this for this reason because we want to get a planning board deliberations. And I think if we table it, I don't know if it could go to, yeah, so I'd rather not table it.
That's such a.
Yeah, let it be.
Great, thank you.
I'm still learning myself. I think I would know all the rules by now, but. Yeah, so planning board, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this next agenda item is something that, was brought to my attention by some people. I'll wait, I'm gonna wait. So, or next down that hill.
You did, yeah, survived.
I can never be out, but. I'm also thinking about getting to the gym before 9 o'clock.
Okay, we can do it. I think that we can make that happen.
Colby, my wife. You can call me later, but we cannot take any more public comment. Walls can speak.
Cheers.
Thank
you.
Oh, yeah, I really love
It was
those.
such, it's like, it was like, usually it only happens back in Pakistan, where there's like 3 different meetings. There was one year too, I was like, oh my god, we brought the chaos here.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that. I was like, wait, what did I say?
Yeah. There was a bunch of like stuff, which I support some of the stuff, but I'm like, dude, can we just be clear?
All right, we're gonna get back to this because I want to get out of here like everybody else, right? So, the discussion item, examine the possibility of the creation of a parking benefit district in the central commercial district. This was kind of kicked around, during some of my meetings with the GBA and different things we could do to help improve downtown. I know Amy also was thinking about this down the road, but getting it kind of implemented has always been a bit of a challenge. So I invited them here to kind of talk about it. So if you guys want to come to the table, that'd be great. And I'll give you a little background on what I think it means, and they could correct me because I'm probably not the professional at this. So a parking benefit district is, I believe it's part of Mass General Law where you're allowed to take an area of parking. So for us to be the central commercial district parking and use all or some of that revenue for downtown improvement projects. That money would be put in a separate fund from, right now, any parking money goes to our general fund. That money would be put in a separate fund, at which point there's a couple different ways, according to Mass General Law, to handle that allocation of funds. You can either point it to somebody or you can point it to a committee. In the discussions I had, I kind of am leaning towards the committee approach, where you have some local business owners, you have the director of economic planning and housing. I think I got that right? Close enough. Community and economic development. So, we had already had some backdoor conversations with the mayor about this. She seems pretty open to this idea. So now it's a matter of hearing about it, getting the mayor to sign off on it, and then the council voting on it as a whole, right? So we got a long way to go, but I just wanted to get everybody up the loop with where we're at and what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to pass it on to you folks, and you can explain this a lot better than I can and the benefits of it. And I know they're really excited, so.
I'll also say the mayor's on Zoom, so.
Oh, yeah, and we'll recognize the mayor as well. Yep.
She was on video for a second. Okay.
At any time, Mayor, if you want to speak, feel free.
So, Councilor Healy, and all of you, thank you for bringing this up. I think Councilor Healy came in and talked with me about it. And I've done a little research about it. I think his thoughts, if I'm sharing this correctly, were, to benefit how maybe our downtown was looking. So to use some of the parking revenue in the downtown area. I agree. I agree. I think that would be a great idea. People come in and that's where they pay their fees to. So it would be, there'd be a winning part of that for the business community downtown. I just want to say a couple of things about that. It actually doesn't really go into the general fund. So it goes into one of the journals that's sort of set aside. I was just looking while you were talking. I'm not sure what the number is, but I can find it. It's, we have several journals where they actually put money. So I have I think I would like to put a certain sum of money towards that, because I think anything that we can do towards beautifying our downtown would be a wonderful thing. By the way, we're having a cleanup day downtown, April 25th in the afternoon for anybody who wants to come, which will be working with the Business Association and the Sheriff's Office and any city councils that want to come. So I think this is something that our business owners would really like. I also have to say that both this year and last year, we've used $350,000 of parking money to balance the budget. So we are using some one-time funds because that's sort of what people do when they have some issues. As you know, we've been up against it a little bit financially. So there are certain ways that you can do it. I've read a little bit about it. Some communities have tried it. I think Reading does it, and Brookline. And I certainly would be willing to put a sum of money like 50,000 or something like that into that. But when Council Healy and I talked, we thought about having the whole thing managed by a committee, I think would be making a fair amount of work. That some of the things are already taken care of, like people so the, Rachel, I can see your face. I'm not explaining this carefully. I love it. So in some,
Ignore my face.
in the language that's written, there's a statute written very small. Where is this? This is what it says. I'm going to read this to you for those of you who haven't heard. Section 22A and a half. This is in Massachusetts general law. A city or town may establish one or more parking benefit districts as a geographically defined area in which parking revenue collected therein may be designated in whole or in part for use in that district through a dedicated fund in accordance with the purposes and uses listed in 22A. It may be managed by a body designated by the municipality, including but not limited to a business improvement district or Main Street organization. So I guess I want to hear from more people what their thoughts on it, but I have some reservations about taking too many parts of it away from the city. Councilor Healy has suggested the whole thing would be paying for the people that we have working in parking, and I thought they're actually hired. They run through HR, their checks come from here. We have accounts set up with the people that do our meters and kiosks, so there would be a lot involved in changing all of the financial pathways that we use to do that. And yet I do want to invest more in the downtown to show that we as a city, that this means a lot to us, our Main Street. And then I thought to myself, now what areas, because it states in every city that has it, and there really are only a few that I found, but I'll stand to be corrected. We'd have to define where that was. I would think it would be Main Street. That would be me, and you'd have to define from where to where. And but I'm going to turn this over to anybody else who has questions or thoughts.
We'll go around the table.
I had a little bit of just nuance.
You can,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I have 7 million
Same.
thoughts and I could talk for 8 hours on this, however. So I'm just gonna start with nuance, which is the parking benefit district can only use parking revenue, and parking revenue, so far as I can tell, includes meters, kiosks, and the Passport app income. It does not include parking tickets. And I don't believe, though, I would want to check that it includes
Parking passes.
thank you, passes. God, I just had it's too late in the day for me for it to be doing this. So it's not all of Greenfield's parking revenue. It is that select portion. To give you a sense of what that is, that portion, meters, kiosk, and Passport income for FY '24 was about $244,500. So it's not an insignificant amount, but it also is a fluctuating amount. And as we tweak parking and make changes in the fees and the lots and all of that, that amount is in flux. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I also, it might be helpful, a little bit of history of how Greenfield has interacted with the concept of a parking benefit district, because I feel like this has circled the airport a few times and maybe we're coming into land now, which would be great. Back in 2021, so immediately post-COVID, Greenfield did a downtown revitalization study, the Deliberate Downtown, which probably most of you are here for, which recommended one of the things that Greenfield should look at was a parking benefit district, which is great. My predecessor, MJ, started talking to FERCog to look into doing a study to see whether a parking benefit district would make sense for Greenfield. And what they determined was, before they could even get into the parking benefit district conversation, they needed to do a parking study to get a handle on what Greenfield's parking revenue and usage and all of those things were, which is what precipitated the 2023 parking study. That parking study made exactly zero mention of a parking benefit district. So in advance of this meeting, we called, Stantec was the consultants that did that parking study. My department reached out to them and said, hey, fun fact, you didn't mention parking benefit district. Was that because you thought it was like a terrible idea, or just there were other things that you prioritized? And they said they were just prioritizing other action items for Greenfield at that moment in time, but they thought that a parking benefit district was a good idea. So this feels to me like a great time for it to be coming before us, because I think we have, albeit circuitously, traveled the loop of talking about it and looking at parking. And now I'm thrilled that the city is open to making this investment. I'm going to stop there for a minute, but I have a lot of thoughts about who should handle it.
This is great. I'm so thrilled that this is on the table again. I'm Hannah Reckschaffen. I think I've met everyone. Director of the GBA. A couple of things that I want to say about parking benefit districts is maybe a little more abstract, is around the value of messaging. And so there is certainly the logistics of the parking benefit district, but it's taking a portion of revenue that already exists and still using it for the city's benefit. So in reality, it's a little bit of a shell game, right? We're sort of just like moving the money around. But the thing that a parking benefit district does is it gives us the opportunity to message to the business community in particular, and also our visitor community, residents, tourists, that we care about the downtown. The optics of it are very, very positive. So you see it, as the mayor mentioned, in a lot of communities that have been lauded for their revitalization. They don't just have parking benefit districts, but if you dig deeper on the press that they got out of that, it was incredibly positive. It attracts development, it attracts business, because you're saying on the surface, we care about our downtown and we are willing to invest in it. And so I think that in and of itself is very valuable. And what it also does is it allows us to put some much needed consistency in what we're funding. And we can be very specific with a parking benefit district about what it funds. So, and to the mayor's question about kind of where we would draw the district, I think drawing it around everywhere that we have those meters. So as the mayor said, that's Main Street, that's some of Federal Street. It might not touch Deerfield Street and some other areas that we want to work on, but it would be enough of a beginning to really cover that whole downtown core. And then you can make sure that that money is going to things that, like downtown cleanup, public art, different efforts that are very on the surface and very visible, and it puts consistent dollars behind that. So it's not just, 1 year you do a thing and everyone gets excited and then it falls away for lack of funding. It gives you something that you can really depend on, which I think, especially for our community, is so, so valuable, because it's that consistency that I think business owners have really been asking to see from the city. And this lets us do it in a very clear way. And the other nice thing about it is that it becomes a cyclical benefit. When we clean up the downtown, when we add public art, when we really pay attention to that main business hub, again, it's attracting tourism, it's attracting residents downtown. All of a sudden, it quiets all the voices that are out there being like, the trash, the da-da-da, I can't go downtown, it's terrible. We quiet all of that. We start to attract more visitation. That allows us to bring more businesses, bring more development. So what we're putting into it, we are going to get back tenfold just for making a change on the surface of where that money's going.
Yeah, I'd like to just add on to that a little bit. So the consistency, the important thing about that is it allows proper planning, right? So if you have a consistent allocated fund, you could sit and look at the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, rather than, oh, we might have it this year, but we might not have it next year. And you can't really ever execute a good plan because there's so much uncertainty, right? So that's the only comment I want to make on that. So any other comments from any other counselors or?
I forgot one thing about the cyclical benefit. I just want to say, if we set up the parking benefit district to be a percentage of revenue, the increased visitation increases the amount of money we have to spend. That was what I wanted to say about cyclical benefit.
Yeah, and that's kind of the approach I was hoping to ask for in further discussions with the mayor. And, I like to just have a set percentage, whether it was 15%, 20%, and what it does is it goes up and down with revenue, right? So if you have a bad year, your your parking benefit district money goes down, but the city's not taking a hurting because they're overfunding when they can't afford to fund it, right? So I think, and if you have a really good year parking, well, guess what? It's a bonus for downtown, right? And now as you start improving downtown, you get more parking, you get more people paying. Hopefully you keep seeing an exponential incline in revenue, right? So, or at least a linear one. I'll take linear. I won't go exponential. I'll take linear, but anything's better than nothing. So, I thought this was a great idea and I really wanted to just kind of have this meeting to hear everybody's opinion. And then I'd like the counselors of this committee, especially to think about this, and then email me some suggestions, ideas. So when I have further meetings with Amy, Hannah, and the mayor, I have your input too. So it's not just a one-man approach to this or one person approach, I say. And that's all I have to say. I'm gonna shut up for a while.
It seems like a no-brainer, but go ahead,
Right?
go.
No, please. Please.
I'm just like, why haven't we done this before? But
Yeah.
this makes sense because it's like, I mean, you're going to a place, right? You're like, okay, I have to pay, but you know that where you're visiting, where you're shopping, your money's actually being spent there.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a good thing. But I did have a question. Is the parking garage included in this or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
And oh, just another thing. What is like one, I know you mentioned artwork, but what's like something else that could be that could be benefited from this? Could it like a sidewalk, or if there's like
So I think
safety improvements, you can do streetscape, sidewalk.
Trash cans.
trash cans, like,
It's a little
We have,
questionable. I'll
nice
play
trash
the slightly
Wow.
devil's advocate that the phrasing that they use is, you can use the revenue for, acquisition, installation, maintenance, and operation of parking meters, parking payment, blah, 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 whole bunch of very specific things, and then improvements to the public realm. So I think so long as you define your improvements to the public realm in a way that everybody is comfortable with, that in my mind includes trash cans and public.
Sometimes vague is good.
I think vague is great in this
Vague
one,
is
but
very
I
good.
think it's important to just, offer up that language.
We had a group last year that started, and they're going to do this again this year, the Blooming Greenfield. They got the whiskey barrels, and there were some great people involved with that, and they planted them, and they were, I think you may have seen them in front of a lot of businesses on Main Street, and we're anticipating doing that again, but perhaps a little bit of that could go to that as well. But I just want to say, Councilor Healy, I think this is a great idea to bring forward. I'm glad that you're on the GBA, or the representative to the GBA. Is that?
Thank you. Go ahead.
One other thing that I think can be helpful, and there is some messaging on how we present it, is it can also potentially be leveraged to be matched by business owners or developers in different cases. The example I'll give is the plywood that has been on Main Street on what was formerly the Country Jewelers building, the kind of whitewashed brick. I'm blanking on the number right at this moment, but there's some plywood over it that would look just fantastic with a mural on it. And so, when we really start making some of these improvements and making our investment really clear, I think it becomes much easier for myself at the GBA or Amy to say to a developer, hey, how about, if you throw a couple $100s in, we throw a couple $100s in, and we put a really nice mural up here painted by the Boy Scouts or whatever. All of a sudden it becomes something that we can really leverage to get financial buy-in as well. Though it doesn't have to be that way. A lot of, to the mayor's point, Blooming Greenfield, what we do, it's for the business community. A lot of folks are volunteering their time to plant those flowers. A lot of folks are donating flowers, dirt, and so on. But if there were some money behind an effort like that, we could really take it to the next level. So
I think,
yeah.
Also, same point, but slightly different, in terms of leveraging these dollars, that My department frequently is looking at grants we're applying for that require a match component, and it's very hard to find that cash match.
Yeah.
These are dollars that we could likely leverage and use as a match in grants that could then go into this work as well. So I think it could be a great tool beyond whatever the dollar amount is.
Yeah.
In it.
Never thought about it from that perspective. Great idea.
Yeah.
Yep. Make this some. Sure, why not? They've been sitting here. Honorary member.
Two things to support what they were saying. One is I think you should always, when you spend the money, make sure it's spent on something you can put a sign on that says
Yes.
brought to you by your parking dollars, not a section of pavement that no one's ever gonna know. And also, I think that when you have a limited funding stream, especially in an experimental phase, you should leverage, not spend the money.
Mhm.
Something I always tell people too. So I think it's a really good
Yeah, absolutely.
philosophy.
I love this. I think it's a fantastic idea. I don't see any downsides. Thank you for bringing it forward. I think, as we've talked about before, so much of, I think, something that's standing in Greenfield's way is the messaging problem.
Yeah.
And so anything that we can do that will have, real material benefit, but also even more so a big messaging benefit and just like change the vibe of downtown. I love the idea of like the signage and all of that. I think it's fantastic.
Hey, take the credit, y'all.
Also like how it's not like the tickets. So people are like, oh my God, they're revitalizing by handing out tickets. So it's not the tickets. Yeah. So.
No, it's true.
Yeah, maybe the sign can say brought to you by your complying Greenfield residents.
Yeah. And yeah.
Sorry.
Just one other thing I want to say too, I think something that it can also engender is more business owners encouraging people to come downtown because now they recognize that that benefit is coming back to them again. And so where we have had a lot of business owners who I think are happy that people come to their business, but maybe not necessarily encouraging of their return very vocally, we can push the message a little bit and say, hey, the more people that come downtown, the more we can do down here. And all of a sudden business owners are really gunning for that with you, as opposed to things like business improvement districts, which I can't say too loud, which sort of tax the business owner. And so this is something I think when you put it forward, the business owners are so psyched that you're not suggesting something on their back, but saying to them, hey, you encourage people to come down here, park downtown. This benefits everyone. Then you've got allies in that.
That's a great point.
Perfect. I don't want to get into too much specifics on how we're going to move. This was more of a, let's have the discussion and learn about it and then think about it. And then let's recollect our thoughts, put it on paper. And this could definitely be reconvened in another meeting in the future. Once we had the chance to have more conversation, I'm a true believer in you shouldn't rush anything, even though I'm really excited about this. So if counselors don't have any other questions on, I'd stay here all night, but if counselors don't have any more questions on what this is about and what we're trying to do, I'd say let's move on and go take our thoughts at home and, send emails if you have questions. Hannah and Amy are both really good about answering emails. And I'm going to give closing
But
thoughts.
I would love to encourage you to take time and think about it and whatever. However, it would be great not to beat this circling the airport metaphor to death, but I do think it's a great idea. I do think it's a little bit of a no-brainer. We don't have to start with doing all the things all at once, but I think to get it launched and underway would send a really great message to a downtown that could use a really great message.
In a moment.
So I'd love to
Get it go.
get it going
Yeah.
after
Yeah,
a
that's a
little
question.
bit of
Yeah,
deliberate thought.
that's a question for the mayor too. I think she's still on.
Yes.
Yeah, so with budget season being around the corner, how do we do this without getting messy? Like, we probably couldn't get this in this fiscal year's budget, I would imagine, or is there still an avenue to make that happen?
Well, my guess would be that that would have to come through as a financial order. We do things in the middle of the year. This isn't actually, we could put something maybe towards it this year and then incorporate it next year if there's something we all agree on, but we could do a financial order anytime during the year for something. And if it was going to be part of a, that wouldn't be actually part of the operating budget. So I don't think the timing on that matters, Counselor Healy, to answer that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I just have one other question. I mean, it sounds like you're saying that it's a no-brainer, which it sounds like it, is to all of us. I guess I'm just curious if you have heard of any downsides or any challenges that have come up because of these.
Yes, but it has to do with governance.
Yes.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah,
about
yeah, you could
governance? Is that
absolutely.
okay?
Yeah.
The sort of committee model that Counselor Healy is talking about, I think is beneficial because the one downside that you read about, not only with parking benefit districts, but sort of with committees in general, is that if it's housed fully under the municipality, you run into a lot of procurement, a lot of challenges when it comes to certain projects. And I think one of the things about public art cleanup, things like that, is you want it to be fairly nimble. So a lot of city oversight, but not necessarily housed solely within the city, can be helpful. And I think that's part of how you write it as well.
Can I
And
say
Amy's
something
gonna
to
say
that?
the opposite.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is where we diverge.
Door's open.
Here we are hand in glove.
I have 700 thoughts, but I'll keep them concise. On the nimble procurement piece, I could be wrong, but these are municipal dollars, whether they live with a committee, the municipality, or transfer to an independent organization. So I'm not sure that the procurement challenge is legal. They follow the dollars. And for the procurement, I was thinking about this before this meeting, and unless we're getting into like a big scale construction project, I'm not sure that there's a procurement issue that really is gonna hang up a project. I feel like my department does sidewalk painting, for example. And it is not waylaid by procurement because it's relatively small dollars and it's again, not construction. I have concerns around the committee format. So I think that the dollars should be administered by my department, full disclosure. And I think that for a variety of reasons, high level is my department already staffs a multitude of committees, including local cultural council, Crossroads Cultural District, parking and transportation, and something else, all of which tie into Sustainable Greenfield, CPC. And all of these committees are exactly the entities that deal in this, both parking and downtown placemaking. We're also on the board of the GBA and engaged with business and property owners. And I'm concerned that creating a committee is gonna create a lot of work. We staff a lot of committees and there's agendas and meetings and open meeting law and all of that administrative labor that goes on with a committee that I'm not sure is needed for our particular department when we're already engaged in these conversations. And I can't fathom administering a parking benefit district without talking to all of those people. So I have a worry. I can say a lot more about that, but I don't think the procurement piece is the hang up.
Yeah. So procurement, if the project's under $10,000, it doesn't require procurement, is how I understand Mass General law. And I actually wrote Senator Comerford an email trying to see if she would increase it to 100,000, because I think 10,000 is too low.
It's really low.
You can't buy anything for 10,000 anymore. 100,000, it would save municipalities a lot of money because you're not going out for procurement for these small projects, but that's her problem. She never answered me, for the record. Secondly, the only problem I see with housing it, and this is my personal opinion, the only problem I see with housing it under one department within the municipality is there's no guarantee that in 10 years, you're still gonna be here. And whoever replaces you might not have the same openness and willingness to help distribute these funds. And I feel like there's checks and balances with a committee where, like, if you have voting members that are voting on what you're doing with the money, then it gets it. It's more, the voice is represented more, distributed more evenly, right? So sometimes I get stuck on my tongue, so excuse me. I think faster than I talk. Yeah, so that's my only concern with that, but.
I mean, and I guess my question about that would be, is there a way to kind of thread the needle and write something into it at the outset that would, protect what we're trying to do with exactly those concerns in mind without it necessarily.
Yes, I very much would create
create
it
a
to
whole
live
new
on
community.
regardless of who sat in my seat.
Or
I
the
just,
Right.
or in
Right.
City Hall, it should live on some guardrails around it regardless.
Mhm.
I am just, again, concerned about the labor that creating yet another committee
I can see that.
creates.
Oh, go ahead, Mayor.
I would be happy to see something written where it was in conjunction with, our business partners like the Business Association or something like that, but I too, we just formed yet another committee. And we formed a committee for something that's gonna come to fruition. It took a year and over a year. And I appreciate everybody's hard work on it, but Christian puts his whole heart and soul into the parking. I thought we have people there that do that could be held accountable. No, it could change. Amy could not be there. I could not be here, but this is a smart electorate. They get very smart people in here. And, I think that would work. I love working with Hannah. And I think there would be something that we could do that I think would maybe be the best of both worlds. And I think perhaps that might be in how it's composed. But I would like to go forward because I fear if we are making a committee, it'll be 2 years from now as well. So, I mean, that is something that I have seen, and I no slight to the folks that are on that. They're good people trying to get something great done, and it can be arduous, and I think we have an instinctive knowledge of what we would like to do there, and we want to invest it back into the downtown. And I think this would be a great forum to bring it back here and say, because I'm actually sitting here thinking, how far out you want to go here. I think it should be clearly defined, but I think I'd like to bring it, more to what Amy said, actually.
So we have a lot of good ideas here. I think we go to the brainstorming table. And then from there, we kind of get this thing moving along. I will keep it on the agenda for next month. And we can kind of talk about where we're at and where we think we're gonna be. And hopefully, let's say April, maybe by June, we have this figured out, right? So, that's the hope.
Love it.
That's great.
I want to thank both of you for your time and the mayor for her time. I know you're busy and it's getting late. And we look forward to future discussions with the both of you because you're a vital part of this committee. And you're not even on it, right?
Appreciate the
Yeah,
invitation.
whenever you two show up, we always learn so
I
much.
know.
This was
We
thing.
love being invited.
Yeah.
So.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, it might be,
Exactly. Same time, same place.
On your agenda setup though.
Right.
But
Yeah, I don't know why I wasn't on there.
Yeah.
I did specially, you did receive emails.
it was on that. I'm saying
We
the
were
order.
very-
Oh,
That was very reasonable, ADU conversation wise.
Yeah, I will say with that, like, there's a lot of public here too, but my mistake for trying to do this on such a busy night, but I really wanted to get it out there and get it going.
No, this
Love it.
is,
It's good.
great. It's great. We need it.
I'm gonna move on
That
to
was
the
on our
next
agenda.
item, which is next meeting is May 13th, 2025 at 6:30. City Hall Meeting Room, second floor, Zoom hybrid unless otherwise posted. And if I could get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We fight over that.
Thanks for input.